Imagine shopping for your favorite snacks and seeing empty shelves. It seems like a local problem, but the cause could be thousands of miles away, where a massive ship is unable to pass through one of the world's most vital waterways, the Panama Canal. This century-old lifeline of global trade carries over $270 billion worth of cargo every year. Your phone, your clothes, the food in your fridge. It's what keeps the world's economy flowing. But right now, this canal is in trouble. Ships are backing up, water levels are dropping, and behind the scenes, powerful nations are making bold moves to render this crucial waterway obsolete. China is building new trade routes across continents. Russia is carving paths through melting Arctic ice. And Mexico is reviving an ancient trade route that could change everything. The battle for control over how your goods reach you is heating up. But all these new trade routes make the Panama Canal worthless? Which country will end up controlling global trade? And most importantly, what does this mean for the cost of everything you buy? Stay tuned. We'll explore all of that today. Let's start with what's going wrong at the Panama Canal right now. The problems began in 2023 with a severe drought that cut the canal's water supply in half. The canal depends on Gatun Lake for water, but without enough rain, the lake levels dropped dramatically. This forced the Canal Authority to limit both the number and size of ships that could pass through. By January 2025, daily traffic dropped to 32.6 ships, down from 36.5 ships in 2024, the first such decline in almost a year. The water shortage hit the canal's money flow too. Even though they raised toll fees in 2023 to cover rising costs, many toll slots stayed empty because fewer ships could pass. This caused earnings to drop from $2.7 billion in 2023 to $2.6 billion in 2024. To save water, they had to make new rules. Only smaller ships could pass through, and fewer vessels were allowed during dry periods. The Canal Authority launched a $2.7 billion project to find new water sources and prepare for future droughts. But age is also a factor. After 100 years of use, the canal's original locks and channels are wearing out. These old locks, built for much smaller ships, still handle about 80% of all canal traffic. This heavy use means more repairs and higher costs. Even the newer sections added in 2016 are showing wear and tear. Maintaining everything now costs $500 million yearly, and this number keeps climbing as the canal gets older. The size of modern ships creates another problem. Today's ultra-large container vessels, ULCVs, are over 400 meters long and 59 meters wide. But even after the 2016 expansion, the canal can only handle ships up to 366 meters long and 49 meters wide. This means only about 30% of the world's container ships can use even the larger locks. The rest must find other routes, like the Suez Canal. This growing mismatch between ship size and canal capacity, combined with drought and aging infrastructure, has fueled global interest in creating competing trade routes. The biggest attempt to create an alternative came in 2014 with the Nicaragua Canal project, which aimed to build a new passage between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through Nicaragua. This massive project had strong backing from Chinese businessman Wang Jing and his HKNE group. Their involvement immediately caught the attention of the United States, who saw it as China's strategy to gain more control in Central America. Remember how China was already investing in Panamanian ports? This new project seemed like another step in their plan to influence trade in the region. But the Nicaragua Canal faced even bigger problems than the Panama Canal. The planned route would cut through Lake Cosabalca, Central America's largest freshwater lake. Environmental experts raised serious concerns. The project would destroy wetlands, harm wildlife, and damage crucial ecosystems. Because of these factors, after nearly a decade of controversy, Nicaragua's Congress officially canceled the project in May 2024. They couldn't get enough money, and the public opposition was too strong to ignore. But while Nicaragua's plan collapsed, Mexico saw an opportunity. Instead of building a new canal, they're reviving an old route called the Interoceanic Corridor. This project is breathing new life into the historic Tehuantepec Railway, creating a land bridge between the Gulf of Mexico, Atlantic, and the Pacific Ocean. Mexico is modernizing the ports at both ends, Salina Cruz on the Pacific and Coatzacoalcos on the Atlantic, and building industrial parks along the way. Unlike the Nicaragua project, this Mexican corridor has caught positive attention from the United States. American companies are eager to invest, seeing it as a way to speed up trade and reduce their dependence on the troubled Panama Canal. With better infrastructure, businesses could move goods between oceans more quickly and possibly at lower costs. In 2013, China launched its massive Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, after the cancellation of the Nicaragua plan. This was a huge web of new roads, railways, ports, and airports connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe. One important part of China's plan is called the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, which aims to control key shipping routes and reduce dependence on places like the Panama Canal. China's strategy becomes clear when you look at what happened in Sri Lanka. When Sri Lanka couldn't pay back its loans to China, they had to lease their Hambantota port to China for 99 years. Similar investments in African and Middle Eastern ports show how China is creating its own network of trade routes. But Russia is also aiming to control global trade. They're taking advantage of climate change to create its route, the Northern Sea Route, NSR, along its Arctic coast. As Arctic ice melts, this route becomes more usable each year. Russia plans to have 60 icebreakers working by 2025 to keep the route open, and by 2035, ships might be able to use it all year round. This could be a game changer because ships traveling between China and Europe could cut their journey time from 45 days to just 20 days, saving lots of money on fuel. The United States isn't sitting idle while all this happens. Mexico's interoceanic corridor. Turns out this project is part of America's larger strategy to counter China's growing influence. Mexico has put $2.7 billion into upgrading the ports at Salina Cruz and Coatzacoalcos and modernizing the railway system. The U.S. is supporting this project through the USMCA trade agreement, seeing it as a way to strengthen North American supply chains. But the U.S. strategy goes beyond Mexico. They're also investing in infrastructure projects in Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Climate change is making all of these new routes more important. As the Arctic ice melts, Russia's Northern Sea Route becomes more practical each year. By 2035, it could be open year-round, which might permanently change how companies choose to ship their goods. The Panama Canal's water problems from drought make these alternative routes even more attractive. The Mexican interoceanic corridor could be especially important because it's less affected by climate change than the Panama Canal. While the canal struggles with drought, trains can keep moving goods across Mexico's land bridge regardless of water levels. Climate change is already changing how global shipping works. Some places are benefiting while others are not. Panama is having a tough time. Its canal, which made $2.5 billion in 2024, is losing business to new routes like Russia's Northern Sea Route and Mexico's interoceanic corridor. This shows that big trade hubs are no longer the only options. China's Belt and Road Initiative is helping some countries. For example, the Democratic Republic of Congo increased its refined copper exports to China by 71% in 2024. Countries working with China can make more money, but there are often political strings attached. Shorter routes seem great, but can be expensive. The Northern Sea Route can cut travel time from 45 to 20 days, but building and maintaining it costs a lot. Will these costs be worth it in the end? There's also a military side. Russia plans to have 60 icebreakers by 2025, and China is buying ports like Hambantota in Sri Lanka. These routes aren't just for trade. They can be used by the military too. Countries like Panama must be careful. They want China's investment, but also need to stay friendly with the U.S. Shipping is getting more expensive. From December 2023 to February 2024, costs between Asia and Europe went up by 256%. This is making companies look for new ways to ship goods. What does this mean for the future? Right now, shipping problems are raising prices for customers. But more routes could make trade smoother and prices more stable. Even a 1% change in shipping costs affects what people pay in stores. Do you think these new routes will change how countries trade in the next 10 years? So, who will win this big game of global trade? As ships find new paths through melting Arctic ice and trains cross the hot deserts of Mexico, the old ways are changing fast. The Panama Canal's problems might just be the start of a huge shakeup in how your favorite things get to your local store. Think about it. Your coffee or the phone you're using probably traveled across many oceans to get to you. But soon, those goods might take a totally different route, maybe even through Russia's icy north. Crazy, right? But this isn't just about which route wins. It's about what it means for us. Who will control the world's shipping lanes? And the most important question, will you still be able to grab your favorite late-night snacks when all the changes settle down? One thing is clear, the map of global trade is changing right now. The real question is, are you ready for what's coming next? Stay tuned, subscribe, tap the bell, and join us next time as we explore the wild mega projects globally.